Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is the first episode of Current Build. In this series, I'm taking a current side project and I'm going to be building it in public for you all to follow along. I'm going to talk about what's been working, what hasn't been working, what I wish I'd done differently, and what I've learned along the way. I'm also going to go behind the scenes, show you the code, show you the different tools and techniques I'm using to build out this data product so that you can implement some of those in your own, whatever side project you're working on, or even inspire you, to try something different. If you're either new to coding or just want to do something, try something different in AWS or building bots or whatever it might be. So every Tuesday morning, I'm going to be posting an update about the project status, what I've learned over the past week or so, or I'm also going to post a tutorial of a coding tutorial or a tutorial of how to use a new tool or technique, so that you can follow along and we can build this together. One of the motivations for this series is to be incredibly transparent about how this side project is progressing. I actually want to discuss some of the failures because, to me personally, those moments are where I end up learning the most. And I don't want to pretend they don't happen when you're coding in software development. So, for example, the very first user interaction with this side project did not go as I would have hoped. I was a little bummed by it. But at the end of the day, I realized that's okay, because I have an entire episode planned in a few weeks where I'm going to talk about what went wrong here, why it happened, and how I was able to fix it to build a better product. Because the reality is, when new products get shipped, things are going to go wrong, and then that's okay. It's how you react and build a better product from those instances. So to get started today, I want to introduce you to the current side project. I'm going to give you a demo, and then I'm going to give you a peek at some of the content planned for the next few weeks. That's going to look at how one specific feature to the side project was implemented. So, and I'm going to give you an overview of what some of the things we're going to cover over the next few weeks are going to be. So with that, let's get to it and take a look at the first side project we're going to cover as a part of this series. And that project is Bits to Bytes. Bits to Bytes is a virtual sous chef. It's a messaging bot tasked with helping you complete a couple of different cooking tasks. So, for example, we've all experienced this instance where you're looking for a recipe or looking for some cooking advice, and you go to a food website and you have to endlessly scroll through that web page to find the information you're looking for. Usually it's at the very bottom of the page after somebody's biography and a lot of slow-loading images. It's really annoying. Bits to Bytes is here to help make that easier by providing simple cooking advice without all that filler content. And we'll look at that in the demo here momentarily. So one of the nice things, Bits to Bytes is a messaging bot. Right now, it's deployed on Facebook Messenger, and it's also set up with a text message number that you can see at bitstobytes.com. The bot's deployed using Twilio Autopilot, and it's literally one of my favorite development tools for building messenger bots, because one of my favorite features is that you can deploy your bot to different different channels like Facebook Messenger and like text messages, and you don't have to change a lot of code. Your users get the exact same user experience, and so Twilio Autopilot is what makes this bot, what helps deploy the bot and handles a lot of the user interactions with the bot. So it's really a great tool if you've never used it. We're going to cover Twilio Autopilot in a couple of weeks, but if you're interested in making messenger bots, in the meantime, I really recommend it's something you check out. But for this demo, I'm going to be using the Facebook Messenger deployment, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show you two of the features, which are down here. for this bot. The one being how to providing grilling advice, like I talked about earlier, grilling advice without the filler. If you just want to know how to grill a hamburger, we're just going to provide you with that detail, as opposed to a big biography or whatnot about in pictures. We're just going to provide the advice people are looking for. And the second one is taking an image of your recipe from, say, a recipe book or a screenshot of a recipe online, and being able to build a grocery list from that image of the recipe. So without further ado, let's jump into a demo and see how this all works. So I'm going to be using the Facebook Messenger piece. So I have it open on my phone here, and I'm going to show you how this works. So for example, let's do hamburgers. So I can ask the bot, how do I grill hamburgers? Pretty common request. It's summer, so a lot of people are probably out grilling, and we can see that the bot takes that request. It recognizes that I'm asking about grilling, and it even goes further to say, oh, you're asking about grilling hamburgers. And behind the scenes, the autopilot takes care of that NLU, and behind the scenes, the processing happens to get the response that's needed. And as you can see right here, you get this nice list of these nice instructions for how to grill a perfect hamburger without any of the other filler content. So right now, this functionality is limited to just the grilling different foods. There's dozens and dozens of different food items that has grilling advice here. And one of the things that's actively being worked on is to add other different cooking techniques. I started with grilling because I grill a lot. It's summer, and it's the peak grilling season, and so that's where I started. But I'm actively trying to add other different cooking techniques beyond just grilling food items. And it also should be said that grilling's not just about meat and hot dogs and hamburgers, but grilled vegetables are amazing too. So this isn't limited to just meat-based products. One of my personal favorites is grilled asparagus. So you can get information on how to grill asparagus. So that's a quick overview of how the grilling piece component works to get the grilling advice. We're going to talk about this a little bit later, but because this is still under a lot more development right now, we're going to put this aside, and I'm going to focus the rest of this video on the second feature right now that's a part of Bits to Bytes. And that is being able to take a image of a recipe, either from a recipe book or a screenshot of a recipe online, and generate a list of the ingredients you need to cook that recipe. I don't know about you, but for me, my handwriting is really terrible. I will write down what I need from the recipe book, and I'll get to the store and not be able to read my handwriting. And it's just not good for anybody. My wife gets upset when I forget something because I can't read my own handwriting. So I was thinking about how I can get the recipe ingredients on my phone that I can bring with me to the store without having to manually type them out every time. So I built a part of this bot is it takes an image of a recipe and it provides some natural language processing to extract the recipe ingredients, and it sends me back a message with just the recipe ingredients that I can then paste into a notes app that I can bring with me to the store to check off. So let's give you an example of that. So I have a recipe book here. It's Catalan Food by Daniel Oliveira, and this is an amazing cookbook if you like cooking. It's summer. It's one of my favorite foods right now, especially for lunch, is a nice cold gazpacho. So I'm going to open up the book to that recipe. My wife and I went on our honeymoon last year to Spain, and it was fantastic, and we love now eating Spanish food all the time. So gazpacho. What we can do with the bot is say, hey, let's create a grocery list. So we send that message, and it says, oh, yeah, great, I can help you do that. What you need to do is send me an image of your recipe. So let me flip to the image. So this works best when you have your recipe ingredients centered. So let's take that image, send that image to the bot, and let's see the results. Oops. And so behind the scenes, the processing is occurring to extract all these recipe ingredients. And it's going to take a little bit, but there you go. Oh, looks like some of the content got a little messed up and came a little unordered, but that's okay. The important part is we actually have our list of all the recipe ingredients right here for us to look at. And so this is the functionality that I'm going to be talking through for the next few weeks. We're actually going to be building, looking at all the different components to do this. So that raises the question, how do you take an image of a recipe and actually be able to extract the ingredients? And that's what we're going to look at next. Because I promise it's not sorcery. All right, let me put that away. It's early, so I just need some coffee. Now, let's look a little bit at how this works. Where you actually take an image like what's shown here and walk through to be able to pull out just the recipe ingredients from this image. So the first step is when you have an image, how do you even go about just getting the text out of that image? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through all the different tools and components that are involved with translating this image into a grocery list. Over the next few weeks, we're going to look at each one of these components in depth, but today I just want to give you this high-level overview of what to expect over the next few weeks. So we're starting with just the image, and the first step is to get the text from the image. And to do that, we're going to be using Amazon Web Services, and we're specifically going to use the Textract product. AWS Textract is specifically designed to identify text from an image. So on the left-hand side, you have the raw image. On the right-hand side is all of the text that AWS Textract was able to pull out of that image. And you can see Textract does a really good job of pulling out the raw text from the image. So for example, we can look at that first sentence. Some cooks will tell you to let gazpacho sit for an extended period of time, and the time's cut off, and we can see, in the fifth line down, you have that exact text right there. So Textract is very good at pulling out this the text from the image. But one thing you may notice is what Textract is not so good at is the contextual combinations of lines of text. So for example, two slices, we can look at over here on the left, the 2 slices of baguette bread, comma, crust removed. And as humans, we can look at that and say, oh, those 2 lines of text are related to one another. Computers aren't so good. Over on the right-hand side, they aren't good at that contextual piece. Over on the right-hand side, you can see that 2 slices baguette bread and crust removed are on 2 different lines of the Textract output. Remember, Textract is only going to show you the words that are identified. They aren't going to try to put together the contextual awareness. So once we have that Textract output, we need to actually do some processing on it so that we can put together and understand what pieces of text belong together. So starting over on the left-hand side, we have the raw text. And we need to recombine that raw text into different groupings that make sense. So for example, we looked at the 2 slices of baguette bread. We need to combine the 2 slices of baguette bread and the crust removed together. Even though they're on separate lines, we need to piece everything back together. And what we see is we're able to put together different regions of the text. And so that we can combine things so that the contextual, so when text moves to new lines, we don't lose some of the context for some of these words. So that's the step we have to do with the Textract processing. So with our Textract processing, we can cut up our recipe extract output into these different regions and put together the words that make sense and recombine lines that were cut off together so that we have the full text recombined in a way that makes sense. So the next step is, once we have the text broken into the different regions, we can use NLP to begin to extract the ingredients. So for example, we have these 4 blobs of text, but now we need to be able to go into that text and say, okay, what text is related to an actual ingredient versus some other random text that was included in the image. Users can't be expected to provide a perfect picture of just the recipe ingredients. It's hard to center a picture and get just the content you're looking for. So we need to build an NLP engine that's able to just extract the ingredients, even though the expectation is there's going to be other text captured along the way as well. So for example, this whole opening paragraph explaining a little bit about the recipe, that's going to be a pretty common occurrence. So our NLP needs to be able to handle that. So what we're going to do is, our objective is to be able to pull out all these blue highlights that are the actual ingredients that we want to include in our grocery list. And we're going to use spaCy to train a named entity recognition model to extract those entities from our raw text. So that in the end, when we process new recipe documents, we're able to just pull out what we need for our grocery list. So from this perspective of processing the recipe, we take the raw recipe image, we get the text using AWS Textract, we process the Textract results, and then we're going to train an NLP model with spaCy to do that final step of pulling out the ingredient entities from the recipe. So behind the scenes, that's the processing of what's going to happen when we send a picture to our bot. But to build out the user interaction piece, we're going to build for the user interface is going to be the bot, which is going to be with Twilio Autopilot, and that's actually going to help us understand what the user is asking and map that user request to the proper task. So we're going to sit down, we're going to actually build a bot that's going to be able to determine, what is the user's intent. Are they asking to create a grocery list, or are they asking to grill a hamburger or grill some asparagus, whatever it might be? So the Twilio Autopilot is going to be the way that we determine what the user is looking for. So this is going to be a fun episode when we get to it. And it's really, we're using it here for a sous chef, but it's a really an extensible use case that you can use for really anything when it comes to building virtual assistants or FAQ type systems or whatever it might be for your customers. So we have our back-end processing rules pipeline we talked about that. We talked about the communication, the user interface front with Twilio Autopilot. And the last step is putting it all together. So we want to be able to set up that serverless So we're going to set up a serverless backend in AWS, where when our Autopilot receives a request, it's going to push that information into an AWS API gateway, which is going to push that request into a Lambda function. And that Lambda function is going to handle the Textract processing, as well as apply our NLP model to those Textract results. And it's going to provide back our list of recipe ingredients. So over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about each one of these steps individually. Textract, processing Textract results, building an NLP model with spaCy, and we'll also look at their Prodigy tool for annotating data, and then set up the Twilio Autopilot bot, and then we'll put it all together and build this serverless backend in AWS. All right, so that's a really brief overview of what current build is all about, what we're going to be covering going forward. So on Tuesday, the next episode, we're going to look at AWS Textract. I'm going to show you how you can use it. We're going to walk through a couple examples, look at how you can call Textract using the Boto 3 library, and how you can, and what kind of output you get from Textract. In the meantime, feel free, go over to bits2bytes.com or bits2bytes on Facebook and go use Bits2Bytes and let me know what you think. I think it's always great to interact with the product when you're trying to build it. So let me know what you think about it and play around. If something breaks, awesome. We'll sit down, we'll fix it together. So with that being said, really thank you for joining. Every Tuesday we'll be back. 7 a.m. on Tuesdays. I'll be over on Twitch, and then I'll upload that video to YouTube when it's done. So I hope to see you all next week, and take care. Bye.